Hi everyone, my name is Shannon Kane. I'm a graduate student at Rutgers University School of Communication and Information, and this is my final project for the Information Visualization course. My project is titled Designing Vision Inclusive Visualizations. This is part one, where I'll go over a bit of background information, what it means to be accessible and inclusive in our designs, what are visual impairments that people may have, and some challenges that visually impaired users may come across when dealing with information visualizations. Some background information on my inspiration for creating this project. I myself am a visually impaired and colorblind student, and unfortunately I've had many negative experiences in the past dealing with non-inclusive information and data visualizations where I was not able to fully read or interact with a given visualization, and that can be very frustrating. And that led me to be interested in how designers can improve accessibility. So this project is a how-to guide on the current best practices for inclusive design. It is mainly an overview, an introduction to the main important topics, and I will include a list of links and resources to more detailed information for anyone who wants to learn more. So for the scope of this project, I'm focusing specifically on accessibility for colorblind, low vision, and blind individuals. And I'm focusing on how information visualization designs can be made more accessible. But of course, these principles are more broadly applicable to web design and other types of design. Why should we care about accessibility? Obviously, visually impaired users deserve access to information visualizations and the data that they portray, whether that's information about health or current events. We want to know too, and it's great to have designs that can be inclusive of your entire potential audience. And as our field is progressing, as the field of information visualization progresses, we are risking leaving the accessibility standards behind because there is currently no industry standard for specifically information visualization. So while other fields have their own accessibility standards that everyone can follow, the field of information visualization does not. So most designers rely solely on the, for example, like the W3C web design accessibility standards, but that's not specifically made for information visualization. So this field needs its own standards. It's important that we develop that. And this shows a systemic lack. It's a systemic issue that's widespread, although there are many, many really great designers working on improving accessibility in the industry. Furthermore, inaccessible visualizations lead to exclusionary workplaces and organizations, which can, prohibit cohesion and really can have a negative effect on an organization overall. And the reverse is also true. Improving access, improving inclusivity creates a better, more positive environment for everyone. So it's not just for disabled users, but it really is to improve the environment overall. So there's a really nice quote I found from A New Vision for Data Viz Accessibility, this article, and it says, "You didn't miss a prerequisite class. You didn't skip a required reading assignment. There's no official guidebook on how to do accessibility right. We're learning at the same time together, and it's a steep hill to climb. Nobody's asking you personally to lead the charge up that hill. Remember, accessibility challenges are not your fault. They are systemic failures." I wanted to include this quote because it can feel very overwhelming when talking about accessible design and accessibility standards and the lack of accessibility in this industry and many others. But there's, you know, you don't need to feel overwhelmed or like guilty, oh, I haven't done inclusive design. Instead, just see it as an opportunity to grow and to improve, and something that we will all work on together. Accessible and inclusive design are similar concepts, but a little bit different. Inclusive design is a process-based methodology that focuses on making things user-friendly for everyone, not just people with disabilities, but anyone who wants to interact with a product or a space. Accessible design focuses specifically on guidelines that help disabled people use something. So this is more like your industry standards that people can use. Inclusive design asserts that there is no typical user. It looks to address the root causes of exclusion, and it emphasizes the connections between people. So inclusive design says, like, there's no normal. It isn't normal people and disabled people, but rather many different types of people have many levels of ability, and how do we make designs that welcome the most people to engage with them? And the benefit of that is increasing the connections between people, and improving the designs overall for everyone. Accessible design, it seeks to create principles and guidelines that are ensuring disabled users have equitable access. And this can be a tool for improving the overall inclusivity of something. So inclusivity is kind of the umbrella that accessible design can fall within. It's really important to keep in mind that visual impairment is a spectrum. There are many different types of visual impairments, and there are also many types of color blindness. So someone might be low vision, or they might be legally blind or fully blind, and that's going to impact how they interact with technology and with a visualization. Myself, for example, my vision is 2200. This can be a little confusing for people, and especially people outside of the US who don't use the system necessarily. I created this to explain it. Someone who has 20/20 vision, or what's considered like full vision, they can be 200 feet away from an object, whereas I, having 2200 vision, have to go 20 feet away from that same object in order to see it. And that's kind of the best way that you can understand, I think, what these numbers mean. When you hear 2200, 2400, that's what it means. And people who have 2400 or higher are typically considered fully blind. There are also many types of color deficiency. I like the term color deficiency rather than color blindness because, as you can see from the image on the left, most people, the vast majority of people who have what's called color blindness, actually can see color. They just have some differences and some deficiencies in how they see that color. Only a very small percent of people are fully, completely unable to see any color, and only see in grayscale. I myself have a much more rare form of color blindness, so I have like what's called partial achromatopsia, meaning that I mostly see in gray with some color vision here and there depending on the lighting. And so, for example, this image on the right-hand side, all four versions of the picture pretty much look the same to me. I can't tell the differences between the colors. I can't tell if there's colors there or not. Whereas someone who had a different type of color blindness might be able to distinguish those colors that I'm not able to. Keep in mind that you don't need to worry like, oh no, I have to design 8 different designs for 8 different types of color blindness. That's not what the industry standard should be. Rather, there are some basic principles we can use to make designs accessible for all types of color deficiency. Again, there's no one-size-fits-all solution, and that's okay. It's about being adaptable and providing multiple different tools for users to access. people are going to use different tools and different aids. So I use a magnifier to enlarge my screen, whereas someone who is fully blind or closer to the fully blind end of the spectrum would likely use a screen reader. This is a program that reads everything aloud, including images. And so that has a huge impact on how they interact with information visualizations. So having a defined set of industry-wide principles would help ensure accessibility for more users, for a broader range of users that fall anywhere along this visual impairment spectrum and also the different types of colorblindness. Some common problems that visually impaired individuals may face when they're looking at or interacting with information visualizations are low contrast images, meaning that we're not able to distinguish the elements of a design from the background. I've definitely dealt with this in the past. Being unable to distinguish colors and information encoded by color. This is probably my most frequent issue when trying to read information visualizations. When something is only labeled by color and it's not directly labeled, it's essentially useless for me because I'm not able to see what information that color is showing. If you're not able to properly zoom or enlarge an image or a visualization, that again is going to be an issue for many people. And if there's no useful or informative alt text for screen readers, that's going to make it completely inaccessible for fully blind users or anyone who's using a screen reader. And I will, in the second part of this presentation, talk about what alt text is, what that means, and how to create it. The good news is that all of these problems have solutions, right? If proper design and accessibility protocols are implemented, all of these problems can be overcome. So having a set of standards that all information visualization designers implement can fix all of this. And so that's definitely what we should be working towards.